Think of the people you interact with every day. Would you want to spend a day in a canoe with them? Hi, I'm Nathan Mercero, CEO of Planning Alternatives. We're a disruptive brand in the financial planning space with a point of view that true wealth has nothing to do with money. Growing up in a small town in Canada, I experienced examples of families with money and without. It started me on this journey of understanding wealth and the idea that spending a day in a canoe with someone could be one of the best investments you could make. Join me as I sit down with leaders, entrepreneurs, creatives, rule breakers, and friends to discover their perspective of true wealth. And maybe you'll start to shift yours. I'm excited today to be joined by Justin Roethlingshoefer. And Justin, you and I connected when you spoke at a YPO conference a few months ago. Was really struck by your story. Thanks so much for joining us and Day in a Canoe. Love to dive right in. You do a lot of impact work on the lives of people, and maybe you could take us through that journey that led you to what you're doing today, and then we'll unpack some of the initiatives that you're currently working on.
Yeah, no, it's so good. I appreciate you, and it's so good to be here in the canoe. But people are everything at the end of the day, and if we're not stepping in and leading people, really, what are we doing? I think we have to sometimes ask ourselves that, and that was really my kind of thought process and the epiphany piece within the whole journey. And so at 8 years old, I knew I was going to be a part of the health redemption story of the world. Didn't know what that looked like. I was the fat kid, ended up becoming the anorexic kid, liver kidney failure at 16, became the depressed kid, became the addicted kid, became the anxious kid, and ultimately became the burnt out adult. And they found 4 precancerous polyps in my colon and a bleeding precancerous ulcer in my stomach. And on that journey, I had ended up getting 2 undergraduate degrees and master's degree, and did my postgraduate doctoral work in cellular biology and heart rate variability studies. And I say all of that because what I realized as I got to this space of burnout, 10 years working in the NHL, as a performance director, operating a couple businesses at the same time, was that I didn't go through all of that schooling and all of that education and all of that background for everybody else. I actually came through it to understand how to heal myself. And what I realized was that I was living misaligned with how my body was designed, with how it was created. And the moment that I started to abide by that, learn how I could actually steward my body better, actually put actions and behaviors tied back to purposeful and intentional rhythms. Over the course of 14 months, I was the thriving picture of health, feeling better than I ever had before. And that was the epiphany of like, man, what you're doing is not actually an athlete issue, but it's actually a human issue. And that was 2019. And so that's almost 7 years ago that stepped away from the NHL and built a company or companies that focus on business owners and business leaders, people who are at the tip of the spear, people who are going first, creating, building, and often on that journey, their health is the first thing to suffer. And so we serve tip of the spear people, keep them sharp so that they can continue to have a greater level of impact and create a legacy that matters.
Your focus on health and wellness and longevity is really impactful to so many people that you work with. You mentioned that a point of awareness after you've gone through a lot of challenges that you realized that your body wasn't in line with your schedule and unpack that a little bit. Like, there's a lot of us that kind of just go through the motions and we're not even sure if we're aligned with our body. What did that mean to you, and how do you point, or what do you point to for others to do some self-checking on this?
Yeah, so I think I'll touch on 3 things. So number 1 is we get caught in what I call the devil cycle, which is all in or all out, where we go all in. We're like, hey, I'm going to go to bed at a consistent time. I'm going to wake up at a consistent time. I'm going to work out 5 days a week. I'm going to make all my food. I'm going to eat strict paleo or strict keto or whatever it is that the diet flavor of the week is. And we go all in on that. and it becomes unsustainable. It becomes this obsessive and idolized factor in our life and segregates us from our friends, our family, and quite frankly, it just becomes overwhelming. From there, we pop over into the all-out space. We're like, man, this just isn't the season for me. I can't do this, and we start to ignore our body and the headaches we have, and the inability to sleep, and the anxiety we feel, and the bloating we get, and the weight gain that just continues to keep hitting us, that just keeps us feeling sluggish and not at our best. And the way in which we find what actually works and sticks is the alignment that falls halfway in the middle, where it's understanding our body. And the way we understand it is we have to understand the language, because our body has a language that's always communicating to us. And I speak about that language in the name of heart rate variability. Yes, it speaks in symptoms. Yes, it speaks in different colds and flus that come. I have gratitude for each one of those, because it's just awakening us to, hey, you're out of alignment. But how do we proactively do that? How do we eliminate ourselves getting the diagnosis, or getting the cold, or getting the flu, or having the exhaustion? How do we eliminate that? Because that's the language of like, hey, something's majorly wrong, versus the day-to-day. And that's the language of heart rate variability. The best definition I've come up with heart rate variability is it's the language of the body that's communicating how your body's handling stress based upon your habits, behaviors, and life rhythms that you operate in daily.
So stress becomes this underlying activator that influences so much of our lives. And how do you guide people around the healthy stress versus the self-imposed stress? In the mixing bowl, I'm sure there's the psychological stress that we said, well, I need to be perfect, or I need to be,
Sure.
we create these mental models that are kind of fantasy models often. And then social media is often reinforcing so much of this as well.
I mean, it's a loaded question, but the big thing at the end of the day is we have to realize that mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional stress, positive, negative stress, future, past, present stress, the body doesn't know the difference, has no clue the difference. All it knows is stress. And so when we take somebody, we work with them in a holistic manner. We have to help them see who they are. Like, how do you become this better person? How do you optimize the heart of a person, meaning how they think about themselves, before you actually start going and changing habits and behaviors? Because so many of us try to stack or plug in habits and behaviors that are misaligned with who you actually think you are. I get my worth from driving business and succeeding in business, and yet I want to meditate 3 times a day, and I want to be a father or a mother, and be home at 6 o'clock. Well, if you get your worth from accomplishing, striving, pushing, and you see yourself as the business owner or the entrepreneur, and that's what your core identity, your behaviors and habits that you're trying to add will never outperform the identity of who you currently have. Now, they can coincide, but we have to develop rhythms first that habits fit into, and then, and only then, can heart rate variability and the other metrics of cellular testing and cellular deficiencies and DNA and epigenetics start to become this exponential increase factor, this multiplication factor in how we feel energetically, fitness-wise, mental clarity-wise, longevity-wise. Otherwise, we're just trying to grab these biohacks that maybe start there for a second, but actually don't parlay on. So I want to give you some handles for this, because it's kind of anecdotal to think about. But the first thing you have to start with is rhythms. And so there's 3 rhythms that I often talk about. Is we think our day starts in the morning. Morning, night, that's our day. We wake up, we're tired, we push all day, we go to bed, fall into bed exhausted at night. That's the cycle we go on. Well, actually what happens is, and I always go off of scripture, is it says in Genesis that evening came, then morning came, that was day 1. And it repeated it over and over and over again. And if you go to the science, it's only during deep sleep stages that our body's actually detoxifying, restoring, and repairing. So if evening is when our day begins, how do we prepare ourselves at night for the most important thing we'll do all day, which is sleep, so we can get up in the morning energetic, focused, and ready to serve and go and do and pour out for our families, for our coworkers, for our teams, for our businesses all day long, and be able to have some left over at night? So now we've got the rhythm, okay? Evening, we're going to have this 3-2-1 rule, 3 hours before bed, no food, 2 hours before bed, no work, 1 hour before bed, no blue light. And we've got a consistent sleep time. Cool. There's your evening rhythm. Now you wake up in the morning and we've got a consistent wake time. And now within the first hour of waking up, we're doing something that stresses our body positively. Remember, positive, negative stress. We want to stress our body positively. Is that a workout? Is that a walk? Is that quiet time? What is that doing for us to positively stress ourselves? It's going to have a positive outcome the rest of the day. And then we break our fast 2 hours after we wake up. So we've got this now rhythm that our body's operating with. We've created an intermittent fasting window that's based around the circadian rhythm. We've built an evening morning rhythm to actually now establish our day in a different way. And so we start to look at these habits and behaviors, and we can start to get even deeper now in what we do daily from a habit standpoint based upon our DNA, epigenetics, cellular needs, and be able to get so much tighter based around what heart rate variability is actually communicating to us.
Speaking from personal experience, I have a wearable device that tracks my heart rate variability.
Yeah.
And I've noticed after probably about 6 or 7 consistent green days, meaning the positive results, the last 2 days have been yellow. And as I think about it, the why for me, it was because I had an extended day. I was on my computer at the end of the day. I was doing some like last minute emails at 10:30 at night to, oh, I just want to push these things through. And then I thought, well, I'll just go to bed now, 20 minutes later. And that is for me, does not work. I need the settling down phase. A lot of what I've learned too, and I so appreciate the work that you do and the guidance that you give to people, is that our nervous system is such a huge influence on how we navigate, how our body responds, how we interpret information, how we function. How do you guide people with their nervous system wiring? We are who we are. Can we change that? What's your take on that?
So actually your nervous system is, I think we're talking about two different things, because your nervous system is just your nervous system is what runs your body. It is literally what helps us understand, are the habits and behaviors that we're operating in like aligned or not. So the conscious mind, basically thinking about how we see ourselves, what we're talking about there is identity. And we have to, if you're not doing identity work when you're talking about a health program, you're signing up for something that is a short-term fix. Because until we see ourselves as somebody who operates at an elite level or operates at a level that's in alignment with the desire of impact that we want to place, you can't do it. I just had a guy, I was on a call with him last week, who had been through our program. He's still in our program, but he's been with us for 3 years. And he goes, Justin, the biggest epiphany I had when working with the team and going through everything. And he goes, it was actually the last optimization day that I was down in Miami with y'all and everybody. And you said, as your influence and impact and business grows, so does your amount of restorative focused work on you. And what happens is we have an unequal or a lack of rhythm in how we focus on business growth, but yet we don't actually give ourselves the same opportunity to grow. And so we're operating at a higher impact and influence with an old mentality and an old identity. And that at some point will either cause the business to break or you and your family to break. And what we have to do is we have to grow at an equal or close to rhythmic pattern in order to see growth. And so the nervous system then becomes the regulator or the communicator as to, are you actually doing that? A lot of us like to think we are, but your HRV will tell me otherwise. Your nervous system will communicate to me otherwise. It's like, hey, I grew my business from 5 million to 25 million in 6 years. Amazing. But you're burnt out. You're exhausted. You're 50 pounds overweight. You've just been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. You got high blood pressure and you can't seem to figure out why. Well, give me about 30 seconds and I'll help explain it to you. And so we can actually start to come back to this concept that the nervous system has been screaming and yelling at you for the last 6 years, but you've been ignoring it and just continue to keep going thinking this is what it's required or this is what it needs to be done. This is normal when growing a business. And the best thing that comes around with this is the body was created to heal. It was designed to thrive. And so it knows how to restore itself. But we have to live in alignment with that design. We have to go back and start to live differently, and it will naturally restore. You can reverse diabetes. You can reverse pre-diabetes. You can reverse autoimmune disorders. You can reverse fatigue. You can reverse weight gain. You can reverse all these things, but it requires a different level of actions, behaviors, and life rhythms that we establish and help guide you on and go for a journey with you on, so that the nervous system, the governing system of the entire body, can actually be back and restored with the rhythm and balance in which it's desired.
When you provide coaching assistance or guidance to individuals, what is the journey that they go on? What are the expectations that you set with people up front? I think the one about work on the inside and align who you are and your identity is profound. So thanks for calling that out.
No, 100%. I think so. Number one is when we created this, and we built this, we always knew that we wanted to create a holistic solution. That's the only way that I believe is fair to the end user. Because how many times, and hopefully people listening to this can resonate with this, but how many times have you had so much hope that you were going to get somewhere new? You had so much hope that you were going to transform because somebody pitched that to you, or an ad sold you on that, or somebody told you that that was going to be the outcome. And 6, 8, 10, 12 months later, you're like, sure, I lost some weight, but I feel like the same person. Or sure, like I've made some progress, but I wouldn't say I've transformed. The only reason that I do this, and this is how I started the podcast, is because I love people. People are what we were built to do. People are who we were created to love. People is who we're here to serve. And so I do this because of people, and I do it because of transformation. And the definition of transformation is to alter, form, and function. And so once you become something, you can't go back. A caterpillar that becomes a butterfly can't go back and become a caterpillar again. So we want to take you from who you are, where you are, what you do, how you do it, to another level. And once you're there, you don't go back. You don't yo-yo anymore. You don't ride the roller coaster anymore. And so when you come into our ecosystem, you've got a team that's built around you. You've got a registered dietitian, a strength coach, a functional doc, and a mental performance coach. So an entire team that is not meeting with you once a quarter or once a month to go over everything and kind of just have a catch up. They're talking with you daily. They're looking at your wearable information daily. They're starting and onboarding you with all your cellular and DNA testing so they understand what's happening inside. They look at all your hormone paneling and preventable metrics to make sure we're operating well. And then we get a good understanding of what's your business life, and home life like? What are your current rhythms, and how do we start to reestablish, reorient, reprioritize, not time spent, but what comes first, so that we can start to create a sustainable, transformative pattern in your life that looks different from what it is. And then as we go on this journey, the data communicates back to us. Your body communicates back to us. Is it working? Is it not? Do we have to shift? Do we have to change? And we get to do that over and over and over and over again. And the relationship built between us and you is one of true trust, true integrity, true commitment, true ownership, and being able to honor the journey of what this is, because the body that we have is the vessel that we've been given to carry out the calling that's on our life so that we can impact more and leave a legacy that matters. And so that's the work that we're doing. That's the journey that we're going on. And what we love to say is you'll transform in 12 months, or we'll do it for free until you do. And that's really the heart behind this, because there's no person left behind. And that's our commitment to every single person that we serve.
I think the whole aspect of relationship is such a powerful force, powerful term. And in our world, we help people improve their relationship with money. And we talk about what true wealth means to each person.
Yeah, you get it.
So it's what we're doing is we want to do to the finance world what you're doing with functional medicine does to the healthcare industry. And I think that alignment and awareness of, as my friend said, freedom's an inside job. You got to start inside and work out.
1,000%.
Justin, your book is great. Power of Ownership. Want to recommend that people check that out. Grateful that our paths crossed. Thanks for speaking at our YPO conference, and encourage people. We'll have your contact information in our show notes and such. But thanks for making an impact on people. And it's been a pleasure spending a day in the metaphorical canoe with a fellow Canadian.
I love it. I love it. Always happy to spend time in a canoe with a Canadian.
Until next time, my friend.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a review. To discover what wealth means to you, please take our assessment at planningalt.com.